Hi, my name is Eric Harrison, and welcome to my nonpartisan, neutral news channel, Political Tricks, where I mean to uncover all the sneaky little tricks that politicians and the media use on both sides of the aisle to prevent us from having a functioning democracy. So welcome to the world of political tricks.
Newly elected congressman caught lying about his background is talking publicly about it for the first time.
Did I embellish my resume? Yes, I did. And I'm sorry.
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House! Please clap.
I don't know why that's funny.
Sure, because the rich buy politicians to write laws to say that whatever they want is legal.
Public service is a profound responsibility.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing. Yeah, mocked, I guess that's the word, yeah.
How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Somebody's bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body.
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
I mean...
The political trick we're going to look at today is the false equivalency fallacy. And essentially what this is the assertion that two things are equivalent despite significant differences between them. I'm sure we all know this fallacy quite well, and I'm sure we've all been victim of a false equivalency at one time in our life. I know I have. But to get more familiar with this concept, let's go ahead and take a look at it in a more popularized context.
Monica, what's with you? Who did you have lunch with? Judy? Who? Julie? What? Jody? You were with Julie?
Oh, look, when it started, I was just trying to be nice to her because she was my brother's girlfriend. And then one thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were shopping.
Oh my God.
Honey, wait, we only did it once. It didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, right?
Really?
Sure.
Rachel, I was thinking of you the whole time. Look, I'm sorry, all right? I never meant for you to find out.
Oh, please, you wanted to get caught.
I guess to some people, betrayal feels like cheating no matter what the context, but it's still not the same. Now let's take a look at the false equivalency in the context of real-world examples as found in the political and media space. For our first example of the false equivalency, we're going to take a look at a news segment from The Hill where journalists Brianna Joy Gray and Robby discuss the controversy surrounding the new guidelines for Title IX. So just for some background, Title IX is a law that was passed in the 70s to make sure that women could play sports that were traditionally played by men, so that women could have their own teams and play the same sports. Recently, revisions to Title IX came down from the Biden White House that said that biological men who identified as women were now allowed to play in women's sports. We're allowed to play on women's teams. And this caused a lot of protests from several conservative states who refused to implement these new guidelines, and they sued the White House. So that's the background for this discussion.
And now we have a better understanding of all of the ways that discrimination happens. Well, why wouldn't you want to protect LGBT kids on the same basis that you protect young women?
I'm not saying I don't want them. I certainly want them protected. I want everyone protected from violence. But what happens if a female student has to share locker accommodations with a trans person and says this is sexual or gender-based discrimination against me because this makes me uncomfortable? Is that not covered under Title IX? I'm saying these things are an obvious tension.
It's almost like we live in a society.
Well, we are working out. They're saying the interpretation of this rule has strained beyond all belief.
Robby, what if a white person has to sit next to a black person in the restaurant and they feel like that infringes on their freedoms because now we segregated the country? It's a bummer. So at a certain point, it becomes a moral question. Do we think that the white person has a right to go to a segregated restaurant and not have to sit next to a black person on a bus?
No, we don't.
At one point, most of the country did, and it was the law of the land. And then people started agitating and advocating for a different way of looking at the world, and those people won out. So we'll see what happens with this trans debate.
But most people think that
the kids are usually not wrong, and
black and white people are not different in the same way men and women are different on a biological level, and there's some protections and separate accommodations for them.
I've got some news for you about how people thought about the world.
So first of all, I just want to say I thought this was a really good discussion on Title IX and the new guidelines that were in support of the trans rights movement. So if you have a chance to take a look at it. So what we saw here in this clip was Brianna Joy Gray. She took a position supporting the new guidelines and made a strong argument in favor of them. But she made a false equivalency when she tried to compare white people not wanting to sit next to black people as being the same as women not wanting to share a locker room with a trans female who's a biological male. I know this is a highly controversial subject, so I'm going to try to tread lightly, but the science is very clear on this. There are dramatic, significant differences between men and women, and there are very minor differences between black people and white people. When it comes to black people and white people, the differences are mainly, when it comes to genetics, the differences are mainly cosmetic. Black people and white people have different skin colors because it's a genetic adaptation to their environments. And there might be some other minor differences that also have to do with the environment, such as, some black people having sickle cell anemia, which helps them survive in, harsh tropical climates where malaria is very, very common. But other than that, there are no differences. The brain chemistry is the same, the bone structure, the muscle, structure is all the same. So that science is clear, that science is settled. However, the differences between male and female are dramatically different, and they're significantly different in a way that affects behavior. The hormonal balance between men and women are very different. Men have dramatically more testosterone, and that affects behavior. And in addition to that too, that behavior is backed up by the physical differences, which is, denser bones, bigger body structure, bigger hearts, bigger lungs, and this all, translates into a sexually charged male that can assault and hurt a female. And this has been a problem throughout history. And so getting back to Title IX, I'm not trying to take sides here in my attempt to explore this logical fallacy. And obviously it's a good thing that we're trying to protect trans women from discrimination and trying to include them in sports. This is a noble purpose. And of course, a trans woman is most likely not going to assault a woman in a locker room setting. However, there's no denying that a woman does feel that this could be the case, that she would be vulnerable to something like this, because a trans woman would have the capacity to do so. And especially when it comes to sports, there is a lot of resistance to trans women competing against biological women because of the unfair advantage that their male biology affords them. And you couldn't say the same thing when it came to black people and white people. If white people were to say they wanted to save space from black people in the locker room and on the basketball court, they would be laughed at. It would be universally thought of as a joke. So across cultures and races and age groups, you do see a lot of resistance to biological men competing with and occupying the same safe spaces as biological women. However, you never see that with black people and white people. And if you do, it's not taken seriously. So therefore, I think this is a classic example of a false equivalency. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And don't forget to comment, like, and most of all, please subscribe. Thank you so much.
Well, you know what? I won't hold you on here any longer because you probably could use some water there.